You need to watch this if you crave chills down your spine. Welcome to Soul Studios. Here, true crime meets the unknown. Suspense lurks in every shadow, and supernatural forces whisper from the dark. We craft chilling, edge-of-your-seat short stories inspired by the eerie, the unexplained, and the most haunting mysteries. 3 new stories drop every week, each one darker than the last. Are you ready to step inside? Subscribe now before the next story finds you.
Two brilliant but socially awkward college students build a secret 3D bioprinter in their campus lab, one capable of creating living biological tissue. What starts as a wild experiment turns into something breathtaking, and then terrifying. As their creation grows more lifelike, strange things begin happening around campus. Vanishings, unexplained injuries, and whispers of something not quite human. This story is a slow-burn descent into sci-fi horror, blending cutting-edge technology with dark ethical questions and a twist unlike anything you've heard before. If you think you've heard every science-gone-wrong story, think again. If you love spine-tingling mysteries, psychological horror, and stories where science crosses the line into the unimaginable, hit subscribe to Soul Studios now. Because in our next story, the monster might be wearing your best friend's face. Alan and Ben are two introverted college roommates and brilliant computer science nerds in their junior year. Both socially awkward and academically gifted, they spend most of their time tinkering in the university's fabrication lab instead of partying. Alan is a shy biohacker with a fascination for synthetic life, while Ben is a sardonic programming whiz obsessed with pushing technology's limits. Together, they embark on a radical side project, building a custom 3D bioprinter capable of printing living biological matter. In a cramped basement lab littered with circuit boards and petri dishes, the pair perfect their prototype bioprinter. They manage to print simple living tissues, a patch of synthetic skin, a beating mini heart, achievements grounded in real bioengineering principles. Excited by their success, and spurred by a mix of scientific curiosity and loneliness, the idea of creating an entire living human emerges almost as a dark joke. One late night, after another frustrating day of feeling invisible on campus, Ben jests, "If we can print organs, why not print ourselves a girlfriend?" Alan's eyes light up at the outrageous idea, and an eerie silence confirms they're both considering it seriously. This moment serves as the inciting incident, the leap from printing organs to attempting the ultimate creation. Using their combined skills, they design a full human blueprint. Alan cultures stem cells and prepares bio-ink loaded with human cells, while Ben writes code to guide the printer in assembling an entire human body layer by layer. In a montage of suspenseful, secretive work, with a few darkly comic mishaps, like Ben spilling nutrient gel on his only pair of sneakers, they fine-tune the process. They decide to create a young woman both out of personal idealism. She'll be beautiful, intelligent, and kind, and practical ease. A smaller body might be easier to print and sustain. They nickname the project Eva, after the biblical first woman, joking that this printed woman will be their Eve in the genesis of a new species. The creation. In the dead of night, with campus quiet, they execute the print. The 3D printer arm moves with mechanical precision, layering living cells, biogel and scaffolding to form bones, organs and flesh. The process is surreal and faintly horrifying, a human form emerging organ by organ, layer by layer in a vat. The scene is filled with sci-fi suspense. The glow of monitors reflects on their anxious faces, and the whir of the printer is the only sound in the still lab. Finally, after hours of tense waiting, a lifeless but fully formed woman lies on the printer bed. She is astonishingly lifelike, mid-20s in appearance with symmetrical features and soft skin. Alan's hand trembles as he checks for a pulse. Nothing. In a panic, they improvise a solution. Using a defibrillator meant for lab animals to jolt her to life, a modern scientific twist on Frankenstein's lightning. With a sudden gasp, she opens her eyes. At first, Eva is like a newborn foal, alive but disoriented. Alan and Ben celebrate with nervous laughter and tears of joy at their success. In a comically awkward beat, Ben turns away blushing to find a lab coat when he realizes their creation is completely naked and very real. They clothe her in an old hoodie and sweatpants and begin testing her cognitive functions. To their surprise, Eva demonstrates immediate intelligence and curiosity. They had preloaded basic language and knowledge, using an AI-trained neural network to imprint generalized information into her developing brain, so she learns fast. Within hours, she's speaking in full sentences and marveling at the world around her. Her creators are enchanted. She exceeds their expectations, displaying a gentle personality, a quirky sense of humor, and an almost childlike wonder about everything. The introduction concludes with the trio sharing a quiet moment at dawn, two exhausted, ecstatic nerds and their printed woman watching the sunrise through the lab window, not realizing the extraordinary dangers their creation will soon pose. For a short time, life with Eva is near perfect. Alan and Ben keep her existence a secret, telling no one that the beautiful transfer student hanging around their dorm is actually printed in a basement. This secrecy leads to both suspenseful and darkly comic situations. For instance, they sneak Eva into their dorm past a sleepy RA, nervously joking that she's a visiting cousin. Later, she innocently greets a classmate with literal textbook knowledge, "Hello, I am pleased to meet you," in a monotone, forcing Alan to fake that she's practicing lines for a drama class. These moments of humor are laced with tension. At any moment, they could be caught with this mysterious woman who officially doesn't exist. Eva's development accelerates. In the first week, she evolves from naive to remarkably insightful. She devours books and online courses, guided by the guys, and starts displaying a charming personality of her own. Playful with Alan, who shows her sci-fi movies and video games, and philosophically curious with Ben, discussing ethics and the meaning of life at 3 a.m. The character dynamics deepen. Alan grows emotionally attached to Eva, interpreting her attention as budding affection, while Ben, though fond of her, remains a bit more detached, viewing her as a scientific marvel first. Both, however, take on protective roles, proud and defensive of their creation. Subtly, the first eerie signs of trouble surface. Late one night, Alan finds Eva awake and strangely fixated on the biology textbook's chapter about human anatomy and metabolism. She's worried, asking why she feels tired so often. They chalk it up to the normal adjustment of a new being adapting to life, and Alan soothes her with gentle jokes, darkly quipping that everyone feels dead in the morning without coffee. But behind his reassuring smile, Alan notes her pulse is thready and her skin a bit cool. The next day, Eva nearly collapses while learning to ride a bicycle in an empty parking lot. Alarmed, the nerds run medical tests in their lab. Rising conflict. The data shows Eva's cells are deteriorating faster than normal. Her printed biology isn't fully stable. Her red blood cell count is dropping, and her tissues show signs of unusual apoptosis, cell death. It's as if her body, despite looking healthy, is struggling to stay alive. This scientific problem is a huge blow to Alan and Ben. They realize their bioprinting process has flaws. Without a natural development process, or maybe due to incomplete vascularization of organs, Eva's cells aren't self-sustaining. She might degenerate if they don't intervene. They scramble for solutions, creating a mounting sense of urgency. The boys argue over possible fixes in short, frantic exchanges. Character turning point. Alan becomes fiercely determined to save Eva at any cost, while Ben is anxious and pragmatic, fearing they've made a mistake they can't fix. They try pumping her with nutrients, vitamins, and hormones. They even slip into the campus medical center after hours to steal blood bags and a centrifuge, hoping a transfusion of fresh blood might bolster her. These desperate capers bring moments of dark comedy. Ben, nervously handling a bag of blood, quips, "I didn't expect to donate to her blood drive," as Alan hisses that this is the worst kind of all-nighter. For a short while, a transfusion and lab-grown stem cell injections do perk Eva up. The crisis seems averted, until it gets far worse. A few days later, animals around campus start vanishing. First, it's a lab rabbit from the biology department, then a stray cat that frequents the dumpsters. These disappearances cast an eerie shadow, but no one connects them to Eva, except Ben, who notices a smear of blood on Eva's cuff one morning. Eerie moment. Ben silently checks the mini-fridge where they stored extra lab-grown cells, only to find the containers ripped open and empty, as if someone sucked them dry. He confronts Eva gently, and her reaction is telling. She bursts into tears, confessing confusion and overwhelming hunger. She doesn't remember exactly what she did during the worst of her weakness, which is chilling in itself, implying she may have acted on instinct. Alan walks in on this tense scene to find Eva sobbing and Ben looking grim. This is a significant turning point in their relationships. Ben is now openly fearful of what Eva might be capable of, while Alan remains tender, holding her as she cries. Promising they'll fix this, they deduce the hard truth. Eva needs living tissue to survive. The nutrients and artificial feeds weren't enough. She craves the fresh cells, blood, and biomass from living organisms, probably to replenish her decaying cells with healthy ones. It's a grotesque form of nutrient requirement that their textbooks never covered. The science feels plausible yet horrifying. Her printed biology lacks whatever spark self-sustains life, so she must assimilate it from outside. Eva is essentially an inadvertent predator, like a beautiful vampire born of science rather than myth. This realization ratchets the tension way up. They all agree to handle this quietly, hoping it's a temporary fix until they can stabilize her. In a sequence of darkly suspenseful events, Alan and Ben attempt to ethically source what Eva needs, a nearly impossible task. They sneak Eva raw chicken livers and freshly slaughtered animal parts from a butcher shop, pretending it's for a weird science experiment. But it's not enough. Dead meat won't do. Eva grows pale and weak again, eyes hollow with desperation. In a particularly eerie midnight episode, Alan wakes up to find Eva missing from their dorm. Panicked, he and Ben search outside in the misty campus grounds. They come upon a terrifying tableau behind the campus greenhouse. Eva, with blood on her lips, crouched over the lifeless body of a campus security guard who had been making his rounds. She looks up at them with a mix of shame, relief, and an unnerving animal ferocity lingering in her eyes. The guard's face is frozen in shock. He'd clearly confronted this beautiful girl and never imagined she would tear him apart. Alan retches at the sight, and Ben muffles a scream. This is the first human victim, and it shatters the boy's moral world. Rising action intensifies as they decide what to do. Eva, horrified at herself and afraid of being abandoned, begs them for help. Alan, though deeply shaken, insists they can still save her and prevent any more violence. Ben, however, is traumatized and angry. A darkly comic argument erupts even as they stand over the body. Ben hisses that this is insane. "We're harboring a cannibalistic Frankenstein. This isn't CSI campus. We can't hide this." Alan snaps back that it's their fault for creating her, and they have a responsibility, however screwed up, which leads Ben to quip bitterly, "Sure, we owe our child a proper diet of security guards and rabbits." Despite the grim humor, both are on the verge of panic. Ultimately, they work together to cover up the death, at least for now. In a harrowing sequence, they wrap the guard's body in a tarp and haul it to the lab. Every creak in the night makes them jump, but they manage to avoid detection. They dissolve what they can with acid from the chem lab, Ben's chemistry knowledge finally put to ghastly use, and burn the rest in the campus incinerator used for lab waste. This cover-up scene balances on the edge of horror and dark comedy. Two pale, nerdy students, accustomed to coding and soldering circuits, now grimly debating how to use hydrochloric acid on a corpse. Alan tries to make it impersonal by using clinical terms, tissue disposal protocol, which only makes the situation more surreally dreadful and darkly funny in its absurdity. After this incident, the rising tension splits the trio apart emotionally. Guilt and fear gnaw at Ben, who starts avoiding Eva, spending hours scribbling fail-safe codes for the printer in case they need to reprint or alter her biochemistry. Alan, conversely, grows more protective. He monitors Eva's health constantly, and the two form a close bond as fugitive partners in crime. Eva shows remorse and trauma from killing a man, which humanizes her. She isn't a cold-blooded monster by choice. She has nightmares, waking up screaming that she remembers the guard's face, and Alan comforts her through them, an intimacy that deepens their connection. There's even a tender, eerie moment when Eva asks Alan if he regrets making her. With a shaky smile, he says no, and she touches his face with blood-stained fingers, leaving a red smear like a tragic kiss. Their relationship now has a disturbing closeness forged under stress. Alan is falling in love with the very being whose existence is causing horror, highlighting the darkly ironic nature of the story. Meanwhile, around campus, suspicion and danger mount. The missing security guard and other disappearances, the lab animals, the stray cat have been noticed. Flyers for missing persons appear, police start patrolling, and the university launches an investigation. Rumours swirl among students of a possible serial attacker on campus. Alan and Ben are on edge constantly. A detective from campus security even interviews them, since they often stay late in the labs. Ben, brittle with nerves, nearly cracks when the detective casually asks about the acid usage log, but Alan intervenes with a calm lie about a spoiled cell culture requiring disposal. They realise they can't keep this secret forever. Turning point. Ben reaches his breaking point after he finds Eva sneaking back into the lab with a fresh human bite mark on her arm, evidence that she has attacked another person that night, perhaps a late-night jogger who got away wounded. Eva claims she tried to resist, but couldn't control herself when the hunger peaked. This implies her need is growing, which terrifies Ben. Furious and frightened, Ben confides in Alan that they might have to stop Eva permanently before more people die. He even starts formulating a plan in secret, perhaps altering the printer to print a biological poison or a fail-safe virus into her system to painlessly euthanize her. Alan, upon discovering Ben's notes, reacts with betrayal and horror. He cannot fathom killing Eva, whom he sees as an innocent they brought into this world. The two friends have a heated confrontation in the lab amid jars of bio-ink and the looming 3D printer. Alan accuses Ben of being heartless and playing God now that things went wrong. Ben retorts that Alan is blinded by his attachment and that they are the real monsters for letting this go on. This argument is a crucial character moment. It shows Alan crossing into irrational loyalty, even love for Eva, while Ben takes on the burden of doing the unthinkable for the greater good. Their once inseparable friendship is fracturing under the weight of their secret. Eva unfortunately overhears pieces of this fight. From a dark corner of the lab, her eyes shine with tears and fury as she realizes one of her fathers, perhaps the closest thing she has to family, is planning to kill her. This realization changes Eva as well. Her earlier innocence gives way to a survival-driven cunning. She now understands that to live, she might have to turn against her creators if they turn against her. This sets the stage for the climax, as all the tensions, moral, emotional, and physical, have reached a boiling point. The climax unfolds on a stormy night, giving a classic suspenseful backdrop, thunder echoing the turmoil inside the lab. The university has ordered a lockdown due to the spate of disappearances, and a police search of all facilities is imminent. Alan, Ben, and Eva are trapped in their laboratory sanctuary, knowing time is running out on multiple fronts. Eva's condition is worsening again as her last illicit meal was days ago, and authorities are closing in, which could expose everything. There's an oppressive sense of dread. Red emergency lights from the storm flicker in the hall, and each distant thunderclap feels like a countdown. Ben has secretly decided to act before the police arrive. He carries a syringe filled with a lethal cocktail, a mix of morphine and a lab reagent to break down cells, a mercy kill in his mind, hidden in his hoodie pocket. Eva, weak and shivering, is hunched in the corner while Alan tries to calm her and promises he'll find a way out of this. The tension between the two friends is palpable as they exchange loaded glances over Eva's trembling form. Finally, Ben can't take it anymore. Turning point of action, he confronts Alan in front of Eva, saying this has to end tonight. He moves toward Eva with the syringe, telling her it's for her own good and that he's sorry. In that instant, the simmering conflicts explode into violence. Eva panics at seeing Ben advance. In her eyes, this is betrayal and an immediate mortal threat. With a burst of fear-fueled strength, she lunges up just as Ben hesitates. A struggle ensues between the three. Alan grabs Ben's arm, shouting, "Don't hurt her," and the syringe skitters across the floor. Eva, hissing in survival instinct, attacks Ben viciously, her fingernails clawing and her teeth bared. In the cramped lab, they knock over equipment. Glass beakers shatter on the floor. Alan tries to pull Eva off, but she is in a frenzy. In a shocking moment of horror, Eva bites into Ben's shoulder ferociously. Ben screams in agony as blood spurts. This gruesome injury mirrors the earlier violence, but now it's happening to someone we care about, heightening the horror and tragedy. Thunder booms as the climax reaches fever pitch. Ben, bleeding and desperate, grabs a heavy metal wrench from a tool bench and swings at Eva in self-defense. He strikes her in the ribs, and there's an awful crack, one of her printed ribs giving way. Eva yowls in pain, staggered. Alan is horrified, torn between his two loved ones. Ben, delirious and furious, raises the wrench again. Climactic turning point. Alan, acting on impulse, tackles his friend to protect Eva. All three tumble to the ground. Eva, now injured and cornered, sees Ben on his back with Alan on top of him. Two creators momentarily vulnerable. Her survival instinct completely takes over. With a scream, she pounces. She pins Ben and, before Alan can react, delivers a fatal bite to Ben's throat. The scene is grotesque and heartbreaking. Ben gurgles, eyes wide with shock as his best friend Alan watches in absolute terror and sorrow. In a matter of seconds, Eva has killed Ben, the very person who helped give her life. There's a brief stillness as Eva realizes what she's done. She looks at Alan with a mix of dread and pleading, blood dripping from her lips. Alan, splattered with his friend's blood, crawls back in utter horror, tears mixing with the rainwater leaking from the ceiling. At that moment, flashing blue and red lights wash through the lab window. The police have arrived outside, alerted perhaps by a neighbour who heard the screams or by the scheduled lockdown search. Alan hears pounding on the lab door upstairs. Crisis. He's now caught between loyalty and horror. Eva is severely hurt. Ben's blow broke something inside her. She's coughing up fluid, her printed organs failing again, and she's kneeling over Ben's lifeless body. If the authorities find this scene, Alan's life is over, and Eva's existence will be a monstrous headline. In a split-second decision fueled by heartbreak and responsibility, Alan chooses to protect Eva one last time. He knows there's no saving Ben now, so he grabs the syringe that fell, ironically, the same euthanizing agent Ben meant for Eva, and turns to Eva. She is sobbing, apologizing incoherently, crawling toward him for comfort. Alan's face is streaked with grief as he whispers an apology of his own. In a tragic mirror of an embrace, Alan injects Eva with the lethal solution while holding her. Eva's eyes go wide with hurt and confusion. She weakly hits his chest, but he assures her in a broken voice, "It's okay, no more pain," as tears roll down his cheeks. This is the climax's emotional peak, the creator destroying his creation out of a twisted sense of mercy and necessity. Eva's struggling form calms, and she slumps in Alan's arms, her breathing slowing. She looks up at Alan one last time, perhaps managing a faint, sad smile, or maybe saying thank you with her last breath, grateful to be freed from her awful hunger. Eva then dies, dissolving into a strange silence as the storm outside begins to subside. Alan sobs quietly, cradling her body amid the ruins of the lab and the corpse of his best friend. The lab door is finally broken open as campus police and investigators rush in, having forced entry. They burst upon a scene out of a nightmare. Equipment toppled, blood everywhere, two bodies on the floor, and Alan sitting amidst it, holding what appears to be a dead young woman. Alan looks up at them, eyes hollow. Here the climax ends, on the image of the tragic consequences of this experiment, the brilliant ambition of two nerds ending in blood and loss, like a modern Frankenstein reaching the ultimate horror. In the aftermath, the authorities struggle to make sense of the gruesome scene. Paramedics and police pull a numb, compliant Alan away from Eva and Ben's bodies. Alan is in shock and quietly mutters that it's all our fault. We created her. This naturally baffles investigators. Who is this mysterious dead woman? At first, the police assume Eva was a deranged student or accomplice responsible for the campus disappearances and that Alan and Ben were two of her victims. Alan is the sole survivor, but his wild babbling about 3D printing a girl makes him sound delusional. He's handcuffed and taken for interrogation while the bodies and evidence are collected. The university and town are rocked by the revelations over the next days. Ben is confirmed dead, the missing security guard's remains are found in the lab's acid bin, and now a strange, unidentified female corpse is in the morgue. The media runs with the story of a campus killer, speculating on a love triangle or bizarre experiment gone wrong, but no one truly believes the part about a 3D printer. Yet. Alan, once just a shy tech geek, is now a haunted shell of himself. During questioning, he oscillates between guilty confession and protecting the secret of Eva's true origin. He ultimately claims sole responsibility to shield the legacy of what he and Ben did together. Perhaps a part of him can't bear for Eva to be remembered as a monster, or for their revolutionary invention to become a mere tabloid sideshow. Due to the extraordinary circumstances and Alan's clear trauma, he's placed temporarily in a psychiatric ward for evaluation, rather than a jail cell. The authorities remain puzzled by the woman known as Eva. Her fingerprints, dental records and DNA don't match any person on record. This lends an eerie, surreal truth to Alan's story that she wasn't born in any conventional sense. Scientists are brought in to examine the lab equipment and Eva's body, inching the explanation closer to reality. The crushed 3D bioprinter and remaining bioinks provide evidence that indeed something unprecedented occurred. Whispers of bioprinted humans circulate among a few shocked professors sworn to secrecy as the investigation continues. Just when it seems the nightmare might finally be over, an unexpected twist upends everything. 1 week after that horrific night, Ben reappears, alive. It happens quietly. A campus security camera records Ben walking across the quad at dawn, looking disoriented and blank. He's picked up by campus police, and news spreads that Ben somehow survived. Investigators, perplexed but hopeful, assume Ben wasn't killed after all, and perhaps wandered off in shock. He's brought in, and indeed he looks like Ben. Same face, same lanky build, even the old Star Wars t-shirt he was known to wear. However, he's curiously unharmed. None of the gruesome injuries Alan saw, the fatal throat wound, the bite, are present. Doctors examine him and find only faint scars on his shoulder and neck, almost healed, far too mild to match the mortal wounds that killed him. Ben's explanation is murky. He claims memory loss, saying he remembers being in the lab, then nothing. He doesn't know how he got to campus or why he's uninjured. The authorities are baffled but elated to have a seemingly miraculous survivor. They assume Alan's recollection of Ben's death was mistaken due to trauma. Alan himself, still in the ward, is floored when he hears the news. He knows what he witnessed. He held Ben's dying body. How can Ben be alive? And if by some impossibility he is, why is he acting so strangely? The final resolution unfolds as Alan comes face to face with Ben. The meeting, arranged in a hospital wing under supervision, is fraught with tension and surreal dread. Ben sits across from Alan with a vacant smile, asking if Alan is okay. Alan, hands trembling, asks the question burning in his mind, "How are you alive?" Ben gives a halting laugh and repeats that he really can't remember. Maybe Alan was mistaken. Maybe Eva didn't hurt him as badly as it seemed. But Alan notices something deeply unsettling. Ben's usually sharp, sarcastic eyes are now flat and effectless. He speaks in a monotone eerily similar to how Eva spoke in her first hours of life. And when Alan mentions a specific memory, the joke Ben made on the night they printed Eva, our Frankenstein girl, Ben only tilts his head in confusion, clearly not recognizing it. Cold realization dawns on Alan. This is not truly Ben. It's Eva's final secret coming to light. In the chaotic moments before the climax, unbeknownst to Alan, Eva had one last act of ingenuity. She knew her end was near, so she turned to the very technology that created her. Eva managed to crawl to the 3D printer's console, perhaps during a brief moment when Alan was distracted by the approaching sirens, and activate a pre-scanned print program. In earlier days, as part of their contingency planning, Ben had scanned his own body structure into the system, a detail mentioned in passing when they tested the printer on known data, a subtle foreshadowing. Eva, desperate to undo the harm she'd done to Ben and to ensure Alan wouldn't be alone, used that data. She fed the printer the live tissue she had just taken from Ben's fatal wounds and triggered the creation of a clone. In essence, Eva reprinted Ben. It was a grim, loving act. By sacrificing what remained of Ben's living tissue, and possibly some of her own unstable cells, she resurrected him in the only way she could, creating a new body that is genetically Ben's twin. This clone woke after the crisis, with only fragmented memories, some basic imprint of Ben's persona but lacking the lived experiences. Eva died in Alan's arms, but not before ensuring one of her creators would live on, in some form. Now, in the hospital, Alan grasps the full, bizarre truth. The Ben sitting before him is Eva's final gift and final joke, a lifelike copy. The horror hits Alan. This new Ben likely harbours the same instability, the same hunger that Eva did, because he was printed using the same flawed process. The cycle of horror might be about to begin anew, hidden behind the familiar face of his best friend. It's a uniquely twisted ending. The creation turned on her creators, yet also saved one through creation, blurring the line between monster and saviour. Alan forces a smile at the clone Ben, who smiles benignly back, clueless of the storm to come. In that moment, Alan feels a mix of dread, guilt, and oddly, hope. Perhaps he can save this second chance where he failed Eva, or perhaps he's doomed to relive the nightmare. The story ends on a darkly comic and eerie note. As Alan is released from custody, since Ben's return casts doubt on the murder scenario, he walks across campus with the clone Ben. Dawn is breaking and students are tentatively relaxed now that the killer scare is over. Clone Ben cheerfully suggests they grab breakfast, remarking he's starving. Alan freezes for a split second at the word, starving, remembering Eva's ravenous eyes. He musters a shaky chuckle and says, "Sure, buddy, let's get you fed," while internally steeling himself for what may come. In a final twist of dark humour, Alan pats a paper bag of raw liver he secretly carries, taken from the hospital lab just in case. The two friends disappear into the cafeteria, one entirely human and guilt-ridden, the other an unwitting bioprinted being smiling in the morning light. The reader is left with a haunting question. Will this all happen again, or can Alan redeem himself by saving his friend this time? The unique, unexpected twist is that the horror doesn't die with Eva. It survives in an unforeseen form, turning the end into a new beginning, both sinister and strangely poignant, a final reminder that technology and hubris can yield outcomes no one anticipates. They thought they were building the future, something beautiful, something brilliant. But what they created was a hunger wrapped in skin, a tragedy coded in flesh. And now, as one life ends and another unknowingly begins, the question remains: how many times can you reprint the same mistake before it prints you back? She wasn't born, she was printed, and she was never meant to last.
Every story has an end, but here, the mysteries never stop. Thank you for watching and being a part of this journey into the unknown. Your support keeps these stories alive, and there's plenty more waiting for you. We drop 3 new stories every week, so if you crave suspense, the unexplained, and the downright chilling, make sure you're subscribed and ready for what's next. Until then, keep your lights on, your doors locked, and remember, some stories stay with you long after they're told.